So we'll take up a new remedy today in Allen's keynote study streak, and the remedy is cyclamen. When we open Allen's keynotes and we see that there is mention about cyclamen, there is a common name and a family name given, and then it starts with the first few lines. So the first few lines are very important, as I have been always been telling, and over here the first few lines are giving you the essence of this entire remedy. What is the essence? The essence is that number one, there is suppressed grief. The patient is not able to tell what it wants to tell. And number two, it has terrors of conscience. So what does it mean by terrors of conscience? That conscience means something that is related to right and wrong. When you have to do something which is in the domain of right or wrong, it can be your duty, it can be an act, and there you feel that you have not performed it correctly, that is where your conscience gives its expression, and that conscience tells you that you have not done it the right way. That feeling remains in cyclamen, and that develops the entire disease. So the first few lines of Allen's keynotes in cyclamen say that there is ailments from suppressed grief and terrors of conscience from duty or not done or bad act committed. It can be a bad act, or it can be a act which she feels it is bad, not according to the society or according to other people's eyes, but in her eyes it is bad. So that is the essence of cyclamen from Allen's keynotes, and this is going to be your stronghold to prescribe cyclamen, because when you will see the other physical generals, they are more or less similar to pulsatilla or opposite to pulsatilla, but it will not be easily available in patients. But this feeling of cyclamen, which is that she feels that she has not done her duty correctly, or she has not performed up to the mark and she feels bad about it, is very strong, and that is what is going to lead you inside the remedy. Whatever be the pathology, whatever be the case, this is going to be the feeling which will represent itself in 90% of cyclamen cases. Next you see is best suited to leukophlegmatic persons with anemic or chlorotic conditions, easily fatigued, and in consequence not inclined to any kind of labor, feeble or suspended function of organs or special senses. So people who are flabby, who are relaxed, who are easy to go, who don't have like an urgentum nitricum state we discussed couple of days back, they do not want to hurry, they do things at their own pace, they are slow in act, they are slow in performing their duty. That is what cyclamen is all about. Great sadness and peevishness, irritable, morose, ill-humored, inclined to weep, desire for solitude, aversion to open air. This is reverse of pulsatilla. Only this factor. Otherwise, whatever else you see is a combination of pulsatilla or nux that you see, and there will be strong aversion to open air. It will kind of aggravate the physical complaints or whatever chief complaints are present in the patient. There are pains which are pressive or drawing or tearing of the parts where bones lie near the surface. So the sensation of the pains, wherever in a remedy it has been described, the drawing pains, the tearing pains, the stitching pains, may or may not lead you to the remedy, but the location and the modalities will lead you more closer to the remedy, especially the modality and the concomitant with it. Here the concomitant can be the mental aspect, or in other areas it can be the physical aspects, which is where the bones lie near the surface. So it can be kind of something near the patella or something near the elbow, which is having very bony appearance at the top when you touch the parts, not the fleshy areas which will have more of action from other remedies, which is like calcarea. So that is what will be the action of cyclamen. Next, you have one of the very good remedies in all sorts of eye complaints. Wherever you prescribe the other remedies, especially euphrasia, you think of sabadilla, you think of gelsemium, etc., etc. You should give a thought to cyclamen, because it also has flickering before the eyes and fiery sparks as of various colors, glittering needles, dim vision of fog or smoke. So this is what, this is the precursor state of cataract. This is the precursor state of many of the threatening eye conditions which are going to land the patient in a chronic state. If you give cyclamen in the initial days, maybe in low potency 6 or 30, with frequent repetition, it is going to work at the tissue level and prevent the entire pathology. If the mental feeling of terrors, of concerns or grief is very strong, go for high potency and repeat it every 3 days, 5 days. That is going to work best to remove the feeling and also remove the physical symptom. So Dr. Priyanka Madan, you are sharing on YouTube about shin bones. Yes, you are right. So it is those areas which where the bones are very much on the surface, closer to the surface. Only a few fascia and tissue are covering those parts. That is where cyclamen acts well. And if you know these areas which will act on these, which these remedies act, it makes your job easier. Next, you have for cyclamen in the gastrointestinal system, satiety after few mouthfuls, like the remedy lycopodium. So this remedy which you are picking up today to study, which is cyclamen, is a combination of lycopodium and pulsatilla. Some modalities and some features of lyco, some features of pulsatilla. And food becomes repugnant, causes nausea in the throat and palate. Saliva and food has a salty taste. Pork disagrees. And also pulsatilla also has the aggravation from pork and fatty food. So in this way you can make your totality of what the remedy looks like. There is no mention of where the remedy looks like pulse and where the remedy looks like lyco. It is scattered in different places. But you can bring it on a piece of paper, make your own group of remedies. This is how all homeopaths work. And make your own formula to prescribe this remedy in these cases of eye complaints, in bone complaints, in psychiatric cases, psychological cases, and take the remedy forward. Otherwise, you will get stuck up in pulsatilla, lyco, calcarea, phosphorus, arsenic forever throughout your life. You will not be able to get unprejudiced, and the only way to get unprejudiced to prescribe these newer remedies is that you find its similar remedies elsewhere, bring it on a paper, bring it on a sheet, or bring it on a document, write the qualities of those remedies, find the qualities of this remedy, and then find what is common. Why were you prescribing the other remedy too frequently and why this less? That's the way forward. So coming to the female reproductive system in cyclamen, we see that there is pale, chlorotic, deranged menses. This is very similar to ferrum and pulsatilla, accompanied by vertigo, headache, dim vision. So everywhere in all the complaints you see that there is a accompaniment of eye complaints. When it is mentioned second time, when it is mentioned third time, you know that it is of very prime importance. And I have been telling that in my Allen's keynote study speak, that when in Allen's keynotes or in any other book, if certain thing has been mentioned twice or thrice, make a note of it. That is going to be a concomitant symptom in the patient. It can be a primary symptom, but the patient will come with some primary symptom and he will go on complaining about some eye trouble which has been lingering for a long time, although you will feel that it's a very small issue, but that is where the concomitant lies and you will be able to prescribe this medicine cyclamen. So in menses, menstrual complaints, you will have patient telling that before the menses I have vertigo, I have headache, or with the menses I have lot of weakness and I have some visual disturbances. that is where you should think of cyclamen to prescribe. Menses are too early, too profuse, black and clotted. They are membranous, lots of steady particles go out and they cause lot of debility. If they are too late, pale and scanty, it is pulsatilla. If it is too early, profuse, black clotted membranous, it is cyclamen. And the patient feels better during the flow, which is good for cyclamen. If it is worse, the remedies are semicifuga and pulsatilla. So in this way you can make your chart of female remedies, and indicated conditions, indicated modalities, before, during, after, can be prepared in a good chart, and you should have it on your desk or in your minds. Next you have cyclamen for extremities, and this is going to be your sheet anchor, one of the top remedies to prescribe in calcaneal spurs. So what you see is there is burning, sore pain in the heels while sitting, standing or walking in open air. So this is a very interesting modality. Most of the times you will see that patients will tell you that I am having pain when I stand on my feet. I have taken a webinar in the last year. Many of my regular attendees were there, where I cured it with arsenic. What were the peculiar features? It was very interesting, and he continues to do well on arsenic. Now even he is out of medicine. There are cases of calcaneal spur which you will give medorinum, you will give sulfur. One of the cases required sanicul also, just because there was a very foul smelling perspiration. So in this way you can hold on to some characteristic remedy, characteristic peculiarity of the remedy, and then prescribe upon it. For cyclamen, it is going to be someone who has a burning type of pain in the heels constantly, whether he is sitting, whether she is sitting, walking, you know, standing, all the time. There is no feeling of better, which is what most of the other patients who regularly have these type of pains will complain. They will require the other remedies. When they go to bed, they have pains, they will require medorinum, sanguinaria, sulfur. If they have the pain constantly throughout the day, they will require cyclamen. Check for cyclamen in all the physical areas, and you will probably be led on to it by the other peculiarities of the case. From the repertory, there is just one symptom or two symptoms that you will come across in cyclamen. But if you work it out through materia medica by matching the components, visual disturbances, terrors of conscience or guilty or suppressed grief, and in the physical area something like pulsatilla, but just the opposite modalities or opposite sensations, that's going to be your way to prescribe cyclamen. So similar remedies for burning, sore, pain in the heels when sitting, standing or walking, you have the remedies agaricus, causticum, valeriana, phytolacca. And you have aggravation from open air and cold water, cold bathing. Menses also aggravates, sitting and lying at the night aggravates. These all complaints are going to aggravate cyclamen, which is exactly the opposite of pulsatilla. I have covered pulsatilla in one of the previous sessions. So those who wish to go back to it and read the remedy, you can go, it's there on the timeline, and you can read the remedy and find out what was peculiarity and what was the case I shared along with it. Amelioration for cyclamen is in warm room or indoors. Menses ameliorate walking, and leukorrhea is aggravated by sitting and better by walking, which is the case of cactus and cocculus. So you have cyclamen, which is very similar to pulsatilla, china and ferrum, in especially in cases of low hemoglobin or patients who constantly have low HB levels, low MCV, low iron there is iron deficiency anemia which you constantly see, and that is what you should be able to prescribe cyclamen. If you find features of ferrum or china, lot of weakness, ferrum because lot of chlorotic or leukophlegmatic appearance, pulsatilla because of its physical generals, and lycopodium in the gastric sphere. Crocus sativus and thuja have the feeling of alive sensation in the abdomen. So there is a comparison for cyclamen on this area also. So you can keep this remedy in mind and think of prescribing cyclamen in such cases where you have these characteristics that I mentioned. So that brings us to the end of today's remedy, which is cyclamen. If there are any questions or anything that you wish to communicate about any case or any rubric, any potency, reputation, please feel free to drop a message and I will try my best to answer from my experience or whatever that I have read. So another similar remedy, meanwhile if anyone puts a query, I'll just take a very small remedy which is very close to cyclamen. The remedy is valeriana. So when you open valeriana from Allen's keynotes, you see that there is mentioned in the first lines excess nervous excitability, hysterical nervous temperament like ignatia and pulsatilla, persons in whom the intellectual faculties predominate and they are having changeable disposition. So many times we will come across different patients where we will be able to prescribe pulsatilla very easily. It's a very frequently used remedy. In fact, I would say it's more abused. Ignatia will be the second remedy which we will come across because it is one of the remedies having lot of contradictions. It is not easy to find these contradictions in patients. Valeriana is even more further. So wherever in a case you think like there is feeling of pulsatilla and ignatia, patient is very moody, very changeable in disposition, the modalities are quite contradictory. Normally, in a case, there should be pressure amyloids, but the patient gets aggravated or gets aggravated by pressure. In certain modalities, there should be aggravation from pressure, but the patient feels better by pressure. These opposite modalities, in some cases, you should make think of ignatia. Valeriana is even more further, where the patient is very intelligent. He or she is very sharp, very calm, composed, but may have changeable disposition in the physical area or in the mental areas. So you can see the first line which is mentioned in the physical general is red parts become white, which is close to ferrum metallicum, feels light as if floating in the air. This is a very exaggerated phenomena. You will not see in all the patients. It will be expressed in deeper psychiatric states or patients who have reached that level of experience. Otherwise, most of the patients will not complain of these sensations. This is similar to Asaram europeum and lichen. If the patient feels there is legs floating in the air, which is also again very rare, it will be strict down. So this is of lesser importance. It is only good to memorize from the examination point of view. But what is interesting is the next line in Allen's keynotes for valeriana, and the remedy, the mention is that there is oversensitiveness of all the senses. So you have some remedies which are very similar in oversensitiveness. One of the remedies is Nux vomica, another remedy is chamomilla. I have always seen that chamomilla is very, less often prescribed in cases of adults. What you can do is in cases of adults where there is lot of anger, the patient is snappish, he will shout on the family members, he will keep on getting angry. That is where you should think of chamomilla. Otherwise, what you should do is you should think of other remedies, which is Nux vomica or ferrum metallicum or china. And similarly, you also have valeriana, which is very close to oversensitiveness of all senses. So it will be expressed in different areas. He will be very sensitive. He will express that there will be more of everything that aggravates me, everything that kind of makes me angry, makes me anxious, makes me feel bad. that will be the area where you will think of valeriana to prescribe. In the physical areas for children, how is it that you will prescribe valeriana? You have something which is very similar to ethusa. Child vomits curdled milk in large lumps. This is the same also in the stools like the remedy ethusa. As soon as it was nursed after the mother has been angry. So normally we should also think of ignatia as the remedy, but here valeriana also tops the list, so you should keep this remedy in mind. Sensation of great coldness in the head. If it is on the vertex, it is sepia and veratrum. If it is the whole head, then you should think of valeriana. Sensation as if a thread were hanging down the throat. Again, this symptom, like the legs floating or the body floating light in the air, is very irrelevant. It will not be evident very easily in practice, so you can just memorize it. If once in a while you will get it clinically or practically in your clinics. Next you have is sciatica. Many of the cases where patients are changeable disposition, you seem to think of them as pulsatilla like constitution, but you are not able to decide because sciatica is there, and there are some contradictory modalities, but you want to prescribe pulsatilla. Nervous system disorders are there, think of valeriana. Sciatica pain in valeriana is aggravated by standing or letting the foot rest on the floor. So interestingly, when the foot is resting on the floor, they should feel better. But over here in valeriana, they feel aggravated, which is also what we saw in cyclamen. In calcaneal spur, the patient will have burning pains, which is more aggravated when the patient is sitting or standing or walking, all the three positions. Same is also there in valeriana, and this is going to be your top remedy if you miss out on other ways to cure the patient. When the patient is standing or even the patient is letting the foot rest, that time it pains. This is valeriana in sciatica. The other remedy mentioned is belladonna. You should differential diagnosis should be done by yourself in your clinic. Only then you will be able to find out whether the patient requires valeriana or belladonna. And when straightening out the limb during rest from previous exertion, better by walking is one of the key modalities for valeriana. And coming to an end for valeriana, we see that there is comparison with Asafoetida, Asarum european, Crocus sativus, Ignatia, Lactans, Pygelia, sulfur. And for pain in the heels, there is a specific mention for pain in the heels: Agaricus, Causticum, Cyclamen, Ledum, Manganum, Phytolacca. These are the top remedies for pain in the heels. So we come to end of this session where I was planning to take one remedy, but since we kind of stretched the session, we took two remedies which are very similar in fact. One of the remedy is cyclamen and another remedy is valeriana. Both are going to be your top remedies in cases where there is bony pains, calcaneal spur, sciatica, and the strong mental symptoms which we discussed. Give these remedies when you have been thinking about pulsatilla, when you have been thinking about ignatia, when you have been thinking about nux vomica or chamomilla or ferrum, and that's how you will land up to prescribing this remedy. Giving this remedy as the this remedy coming to your mind as the first remedy of choice in prescription will be difficult. You will need to break your prejudices to think of cyclamen and valeriana for prescribing in such cases. So you need to read and reread, and that's what we come to an end of today's session. And we will join again tomorrow evening 5:15 p.m. And meanwhile, there is a free session on introduction to fever workshop which I'll be taking on Monday, which is 5th of August. If you wish to join, please fill in the form and you will get to access it. So any attendees who wish to ask any question, please feel free, or else we call it a day.